I call Alfred Ngaro.
Mr Speaker, it's an honour to speak on this bill, the New Zealand flag referendum bill, but it's disappointing to see that a member who's probably been here for over 100 years and has served this parliament for much a long time, while he's been here for many years, and to see that he's come to a point where he knows and he's agreed, in fact at the Select Committee, he agrees with the changing of the flag. He told us that. It's in Hansard. He said that actually changing the flag is the right thing to do. Yet today in this House, to the open public of New Zealand, he's only opposing it out of spite. Only out of spite. Not because he knows it's the right thing to do. He knows it's the right thing to do, but out of spite, he's choosing not to vote for it. Mr Speaker, that's a sad day when a member who's been here for that long and who has made a contribution could get to that point, and out of spite, he can vote against it. Mr Speaker, that member also too made comments, and he's been going on in all his speeches, even in committee stages. He talks about the 740 form submissions that wanted to make an oral submission. That member knows, because he's been here long enough, that form submissions are taken as one submission and as a whole. He's sat on select committees, he's been a backbencher, he's been a chair of a select committee, he's been a member as a minister. That member knows a form submission is taken as one submission. So to get up here and tell us that we did not allow the democratic right of 740 form submissions is not true, is not correct at all. Mr Speaker, again, it's the act of spite. The act of spite. But instead, we heard the submissions that came forward, who were people that took time to write their submissions, who took time to say that, yes, I would like to come before the Select Committee and be able to present my submission. Mr Speaker, I also too, in the speeches that we've heard over this flag referendum bill, we've heard people who've talked about that this is possibly a vanity bill by the Prime Minister. Mr Speaker, I want to sort of contest that point. In fact, Carmel Sepuloni made that point just the other day, which he said in the title it could be the Prime Minister's vanity bill. Well, let me just remind that member, in 1970, when National MP of Internal Affairs Alan Haight actually put a petition forward, was that vanity? No, it wasn't, because he was challenging the fact that there should be change. In 1988, Labour MP, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Russell Marshall, and I know the honourable member over there, Trevor Mallard, would probably know him. Was that a vanity? Was it vanity when he said that there was a point of change that was needed? In 1989, The Listener had a magazine article in which they actually had a competition, and there were over 600 entries, 7 finalists, and the current flag of 1902 was only just a winner by a minority, and the people said, actually, this dispels the myth that there is time for change. Was that vanity? No, there wasn't. Let's get to 1992 in February. The Honourable Maturata, the late Maturata, former Minister of Māori Affairs of the Labour Party, founder of Mana Motuhake, called for a redesign to re-establish a national flag. Was that a vanity approach? No, it wasn't. Why? Because even Mr Mallard knows it was the right thing to do. This is what he said in his Hansards. He said, yes, the current flag of 1902 represents our history and our heritage, but does it represent our future? No, it doesn't. And that was his challenge. At that point in time, and listen up, Mr Rourke, at that point in time, the RSA had challenged and had contested every single petition to change their flag. In 1992, the RSA conceded and said this will not go away. The issue for change is going to be coming from one generation to the next. So they said this, Mr O'Rourke and Mr Mark, they said this. They said, if there is to be a change, let it be by referendum. In other words, let the people choose. Let the people choose. And that's exactly what this bill is. It's letting the people choose to have their day here. Mr Speaker, we know that many people right up and down the country have turned around and said that this is something that we should look at. And this is what it's doing. It said, let the people choose. So what have we got here? 10,290 alternative designs. 10,290 alternative designs have come forward. 26,000 New Zealanders have shared what they stand for. In other words, it's asked them this question: what are the values that are important to us if we were to redesign this flag? And I know Mr Mallard will say that's the right process. Let the people choose what are the values that are reflected in this flag, what's the narrative behind the design. That's what's been asked of our people. 2.7 million views. 2.7 million views around the flag gallery. That's what's happened. More than 8,500 online visits, 6,000 visits to the workshops and information stands. Mr. Speaker, what does this say? In other words, the people says this: let us choose. Let the people choose. Mr. Mallard knows it's the right process. The members of New Zealand First knows the right process. They're confused, as my good friend John O'Naylor said. They're so confused, they had to write. In fact, I think they've squiggled it out now, but on that little sticker, it said New Zealand. Why? Because even they were confused. They thought there was an Australian flag, right? But on there, and I think Mr. O'Rourke has got his little blue marker out, and he's squiggled it all out. That's right. So he's taken away, because even he knew, he was confused what that flag was. So in order to allow that confusion to be dispelled, in order for us, the nation, to choose, Mr. Speaker, we believe this bill is the right bill. We're simply saying this: let the people choose, as they have asked for, as the RSA have said. Let it be by referendum. And there was, in my final point, Mr. Speaker, this talk about the fact is, like MMP, we went out and we said to the people this: do you want it or not? Let's remember, we had years of MMP, so people understood. You can't ask people for something they don't know. What we've asked them for is this: let's design, let's put out the designs, let's make sure that people have a view on what that alternative could look like. Let's know what the narrative is, not only about our history and our heritage, but as the late Maturata said, even in this place, in front of Mr. Mallard, he said, let's choose a flag that represents our future. That's what this referendum is doing, and the people will choose that. Mr. Speaker, I commend this bill to the House.